Is the Insta360 ONE R the best 360 action camera? This is my brutally honest user review. My name's Rich from Sleep360, and if you're interested in 360 photos and 360 videos, then you're in the right place. So please hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you don't miss out on my latest content. My first impressions when the camera arrived and I first saw the Insta360 ONE R in real life was wow, this camera is so tiny. It was much smaller than I thought it would be, and it's a sleek and sexy design but a completely different form factor to the Insta360 ONE X. It felt robust and way less vulnerable than the Insta360 ONE X, and it was really nice just to grab it and just plonk it down on a table and not worry about it falling over. But very quickly after that thought you realise actually this is the incomplete camera, I need to put the battery on. You put the battery on and it's still got a nice shape to it and you still love the camera. But it doesn't stop there, because now I need to add the mounting cage, which effectively is like a GoPro skeleton cage. And interestingly enough, Insta360 in most of their promotional material don't show the camera in the mounting bracket cage. So now with the battery and with the mounting bracket, it pretty much looks like a GoPro, but a sexier version of the GoPro. I prefer the look of this camera without the mounting bracket, just because it's got a sleeker looking design. If they could come up with a 360 action camera that looks like this without the bulk of the battery and without the bulk of the cage, then that would be really something. Putting the camera together is relatively simple and quick, but I wouldn't say it's a compact action camera when you compare it to like the GoPro 7. The GoPro 7, which still uses that skeleton cage, is still a much more compact action camera, and the GoPro 8 is even more compact because it doesn't use the skeleton housing and the finger mount is actually integrated into the base of the camera. The major benefit of the ONE R though is that it's a modular system, so you can easily change it from a 360 action camera to a 4K action camera. The whole modular design and the interchangeable nature of the camera is a great idea because it offers a lot of flexibility and there's future proofing. But from a usability point of view of integrating all of those modules, I don't think it's been very well thought out. If you're going to go out shooting but you don't really know how you're going to use the camera, so you want to take the 360 module, the 4K module and the 1-inch module with you, that's fine. But when you change the modules over, where do you put the other modules that you're not using? Because there's no case and no pouch that comes with the camera. This is obviously inconvenient, but more importantly, it leaves the modules vulnerable to damage. You can easily scratch them or damage them if you're just going to put them in your pocket and you don't have a proper pouch or a case. It would have been quite an easy add-on for Insta360 to include a pouch or a soft case for each individual module. There's a free lens cloth included, which is nice to have, but you've still got to have a storage solution, and you wouldn't really want to leave any one of these modules at home if you're not sure how you're going to use the camera. I store my lens modules in this hermit shell bag, but ideally you want something maybe that's half the size that you can accommodate one lens, and then the option of having this size which would accommodate two lenses, and maybe another option where you could carry the camera and all of the other components in one case. I do love cases, pouches and bags, so if you've got any suggestions that you think will be suitable for either any one of these individual modules or for the whole system, then let me know in the comments. If you're used to a camera that is a complete system, it does feel a bit of a faff at first assembling the camera and putting it in the cage. If you don't put the cage on, all the modules do feel like they fit tightly together, but if you were to drop it at any point, then my gut feeling is that they would just ping apart. Whilst the camera is in the mounting bracket, you can still access the USB port and the memory card slot, but it is a bit fiddly because the hole is a bit small, and when you've got massive thumbs and fingers like mine that are twice the width of most fingers and thumbs, it can be a bit fiddly. You can eliminate the need for the mounting bracket cage by buying the extended battery. The extended battery has an integrated GoPro finger mount at the bottom. But then if you're using this as an action camera and you're cycling or skiing etc with it, then I wouldn't trust that if you knocked the camera, as I said, that it wouldn't just pop apart. And even in the Insta360 guide it says you shouldn't use the camera without the mounting bracket, because the mounting bracket holds everything together and it makes everything watertight and makes it more secure. So I'm not sure how the larger battery is going to work and what Insta360's advice would be on it, especially if you're going to use it underwater. So the other thing to mention at this point is how to mount the Insta360 ONE R onto a selfie stick. Well, if you're not using the extended battery, you have to use the mounting bracket that comes with the camera. Now this mounting bracket is taken on the same design as the GoPro Max, which is with the GoPro finger mount. So I was disappointed with this mount when I had the GoPro Max, and I'm even more disappointed now that Insta360 have adopted the GoPro design for their camera. For 360 use, the design of this mount is pointless because the camera can easily move. and if the camera isn't set dead straight on the selfie stick, then your selfie stick will be shown in shot. And this totally destroys the magic of the invisible selfie stick. And you won't always get the camera mounted dead straight on the mount, and if you do, at some point it will get knocked, or you'll forget to check it or forget to reset it. I know I'm sounding a bit dramatic about this point, but a lot of shots will be ruined by the design of this mount. The 360 module should have been the priority on this camera, and they should have had a 1/4 inch thread built into the bottom of the mount or into the bottom of the battery base. And then if people wanted to use the GoPro style mount, then that is the thing that you should buy as an adapter that goes into the 1/4 inch thread, not the other way around. With the GoPro Max, the tripod mount adapter isn't even included, so at least we have got it included with the Insta360 ONE R. So I've spoken a lot already and I haven't even turned the camera on yet, but I wanted to give you a real insight to how I felt about the camera and my honest first impressions. So the first time I turned the camera on, it did freeze and I had to reset it. This happened several times, and even after the latest firmware update, it still does freeze every now and then. Ever since I've had the One X, I've always wanted a better screen because the screen on the One X is terrible. I've got my GoPro Max and I love that touchscreen, so it's no surprise that I do really like the touchscreen on the Insta360 ONE R. The touchscreen can easily be seen outside, and I just found it really convenient to be able to change the shooter mode and just see what I've recorded on the screen. There's so much you can do on the camera screen without the need for the app. You can change the shutter, the ISO, the white balance, and you can switch between all of the shooter modes with a simple swipe up on the screen. And you can also play back clips and check your sound, so it gives you the confidence that you've successfully recorded your shot. The other really good feature is the programmable modes. There's one pre-program mode, which is Star Lapse, which can't be changed, but you can then program an additional 4 modes with your favourite camera settings. For me, the screen is too small to use for composition and exposure, but it's good just to have a rough guide. And because the screen is positioned close to the lens, sometimes when you swipe on the left of the screen, it doesn't always work straight away because there isn't enough room to kind of swipe off to the edge. If you're not using the app, it is nice to have the screen as a basic guide and a basic reference, and you can easily switch between the two cameras by double tapping the screen so you can see what both cameras are getting. Included with the camera is a double lens protector, which on the face of it looks quite good. It covers up both lenses and it protects the camera while it's in your pocket or while it's in your bag. The disadvantage is that when you take the camera out of your pocket or out of your bag, that the lens protector does often get caught and it pulls the lens protector off, which then leaves your camera vulnerable, and it can scratch as it comes out of your pocket by getting caught on a button or on a zip. To give the camera even more protection, I now put it in a pouch as well. And I know this is the GoPro Max pouch, which is ironic, but it does protect the camera, and it would be quite easy for Insta360 to include a pouch with the camera. Also, be mindful of the fact that when you take the lens protector off, you can easily leave a smudge on the lens with your finger as you remove it. In terms of battery life, it is typically about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what type of filming you're doing and how long you're filming for. I've been out 2 to 3 hours with the camera and the battery's lasted, but I have been switching the camera off in between, or the LCD screen, and you can turn the LCD screen off very easily by quickly pressing the on button, and then you bring it back to life again by quickly pressing it again. The battery isn't integrated into the camera, but it kind of feels like it is integrated because you can't just take it off. You've got to disassemble the camera and then take it off, and then put the new battery on, and then reassemble the camera and then put it back into the mounting cage. With regards to the camera's stitching, there have been a few times when the stitching has been questionable, but most of the time I'm pretty happy with what I've seen. The annoying thing is that when you look on the app to make sure that the selfie stick and the camera is aligned straight, and to also to give you a gauge on the stitching itself, it's not very accurate. In fact, it's pretty awful, and it doesn't give you an idea of how the shot will look when it's finally used. So only use this as a rough guide. If we look at the stitching around the base of the camera, which is where most 360 cameras do struggle a bit, you'll see that this is also a challenge for the One R. But I think the bottom line with this camera is that the lenses are further apart on a thicker body, so the stitching won't always be as good as, say, the One X. But generally I am liking the images that the One R captures, and it is producing some nice colours and some good contrast and a lot of detail. I'll be doing some more comparison videos soon with the Insta360 ONE R against the GoPro Max and the Insta360 ONE X. So let me know if there's anything in particular that you want to compare in the comments below. The One R has slow motion and next level stabilization, and as you'd expect, this is just really good and it just works. The ONE R app was a major selling point in the adverts for the Insta360 ONE R, but since we've learnt that the Insta360 ONE R app can be used with the Insta360 ONE X. Now this is only the case with iOS users and some Android users, but this did take the shine off a little bit of this selling point. Understandably, this isn't something that Insta360 are talking about, but if you do have the ONE X, then download the ONE R app and give it a go. The app is obviously aimed at the Insta360 ONE R, and it is a major upgrade in terms of the functions it offers and the user friendliness. One major change is the introduction of AI functions, where the app gives you short tutorials on what to shoot and how many shots that you need in order to create a certain shot. And then when you've taken those shots, you then import them into the app, and the app will recognize them and it will edit them and create a shot without you inputting any keyframes or reframing. In terms of manual editing, the app is a lot more intuitive to use, and it's easier to add keyframes and switch between different view modes, and there are now additional export options to choose from as well. Keep an eye out for my full editing app tutorial, which I'll upload soon. In terms of mobile workflow, this camera makes editing a lot quicker and a lot smoother because you can edit the clip directly from the camera. You don't have to download it to your phone first, which is a massive bonus. Now whilst this is great, you have a limited time to edit your material because obviously you're limited with the battery on your camera. So plug it into a portable power bank if this is the way you're going to start to edit. In terms of sound, I'd say the ONE R's sound is marginally better than the ONE X, particularly in a controlled environment with no extraneous sound. This is a sound test on the Insta360 ONE R from 1 meter away. This is a sound test on the Insta360 ONE R from 2 meters away. This is a sound test on the Insta360 ONE R from 1 foot away from the camera. It sounds a little bit warmer and a little bit more natural than the ONE X. I haven't tested the sound extensively though, so I can't say that I'd rely on it to the same extent that I would with the GoPro Max. And if you're buying this camera for vlogging, then a lot more tests need to be done first before you make your decision. Continuing with sound, I absolutely hate the prompt sounds on this camera. It's like they pulled these sounds from old mobile phones from like 15, 20 years ago. It makes no sense why they came up with these hideous sounds for this camera. Of course it's not a deal breaker, but sounds like this just cheapen a product. A couple of other functions with the camera didn't work, and that was voice control and quick capture. With voice control I found that I had to get really close to the camera and I had to shout, and sometimes it'd only work one side of the camera and not the other side of the camera. I could only get start recording and stop recording to work. I couldn't get any of the other voice commands to work, which is a little bit annoying. Start recording. Start recording. Start recording. Start recording. With quick capture does work, but you have to hold the record button down for 2 seconds so that it turns on and then starts recording. If you push the button very quickly once, the camera will turn on, but it won't start recording. This could obviously really catch you out, so bear that in mind if you are going to use quick capture, and hopefully both of these points will be sorted in future firmware upgrades. In conclusion, let's start with the negatives about this camera. First of all, you need a mounting bracket or a skeleton cage, call it whatever you want, but you need an additional item on this camera, not only to mount it to a selfie stick, but you need it to hold this camera together. And I think that is a major step backwards. When you look at the GoPro 8, the GoPro 8 took a leap forwards by eliminating the need to have a GoPro skeleton cage, and they had the mount integrated into the base of the camera. Now Insta360 have come up with this idea of taking a step backwards to where GoPro were with the GoPro 7, where you had to use a skeleton cage. It just makes no sense. The fact that that mounting bracket has got the GoPro finger mount at the bottom is also a step backwards. They should have had a 1/4 inch mount. That mount will cause a lot of problems, particularly with beginners, where they're going to have misaligned selfie sticks that are going to ruin their shots. The battery is also a step backwards. The batteries themselves aren't compact, and if you want to change the battery you have to disassemble the whole camera. Have Insta360 over-engineered this camera? Surely they could have just had a 360 mod with a hero mode like the GoPro did with the GoPro Max. Are they overcomplicating things with a 1 inch mod and a 4K mod? They obviously decided to go down the modular route, which is fine, but then at least include a pouch or something that clips to your belt that holds the camera and holds all the modules together to keep them safe. There are going to be a lot of scratched lenses and damaged modules out there. Anyway, stop! No more negatives. For the positives, what this camera is and what it does very well is that it's an adaptive system. It's an interchangeable system, it's a modular system that will adapt with future technology. It's pretty much future-proof. You can change the lenses of the camera, you can change the mode of the camera, you can change how this camera is used. It's the best competition for a GoPro camera and an action camera that we've seen so far. If you've used the Insta360 ONE X or you've used the GoPro Max, then you will definitely enjoy using the Insta360 ONE R, but you will see its flaws the same way that I've experienced them. If you need your camera to be waterproof and you want interchangeable lenses and you want the ability to swap between all the different modules, then you will love this camera. If you've never had a 360 camera before, you will really love this camera. Until GoPro Max sort out all of their updates, I'd say that if you're after the best 360 action camera at the moment, this is the one to get. It's just for me in this instance, I can't help but see what could have been rather than what is. It has addressed 3 of the major issues that we had with the ONE X. It's more robust, it's waterproof, and it's now got a touchscreen. I've had GoPro cameras for years and I do love the familiarity with this camera as a GoPro style camera. Whether Insta360 will think it's a good thing that people are referring to their camera as a GoPro style camera, I don't really know. All I do know is that it looks and feels like an action camera and it's way less vulnerable than the ONE X. I love most of what the Insta360 ONE R camera can offer and I love what it can do. And I've really enjoyed shooting with it and I'll continue to enjoy shooting with it. But I think for me it's a bit of a sideways move for Insta360 and it's left me wanting more. And ultimately I just want an Insta360 ONE X version 2. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Insta360 ONE R. Is it the best 360 action camera? Is it a sideways move for Insta360? Are you still waiting for the Insta360 ONE X version 2? Please give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video.